that Bob Marley is my father, I don't have to come out and say that. But my name Fabian Marley, if I try to go and change it back, it will put me in problem.
He thought he was the next son of reggae, but science had other plans. Fabian Marley spent years claiming he was Bob Marley's child, riding a wave of fame, interviews, and studio sessions. But when a DNA test dropped a truth bomb, everything changed. The results? Not even a little Marley. What followed was heartbreak, confusion, and a whole lot of legal drama. In this video, we're breaking down how Fabian's world flipped overnight, what the Marley family had to say, and where Fabian is now after facing one of the most public paternity plot twists in reggae history. Let's take a look at Marley's Kids first and see what the family Fabian was trying to join looks like. A little about Bob Marley's Kids. Bob Marley had a lot of kids, like enough to form their own reggae supergroup with alternates. While Bob officially acknowledged 11 children, there have been claims from others over the years, which is part of why Fabian's story got attention in the first place. Bob's kids come from several relationships, and each has carved out their own path, many in music, some in business, and all in the public eye in one way or another. Let's break it down. First up is Ziggy Marley, born David Nesta Marley. He's probably the most famous of Bob's children and the one who's carried the torch musically more than anyone else. Ziggy started out with his siblings in the Melody Makers and went on to become a Grammy-winning solo artist with a sound that keeps reggae's roots alive, but isn't afraid to experiment. He's also been super active in humanitarian causes and children's education, basically proving that talent and heart run deep in the Marley line. Then there's Stephen Marley, who's like the behind-the-scenes magician. He's not only an incredible performer himself, but has produced a lot of the music that's come out of the Marley family tree. He's the guy who can sing, rap, produce, and mix all at once. Quiet storm energy, but with serious creative power. Damien Jr. Gong Marley is another standout. He's the youngest son of Bob and Cindy Breakspear, who was Miss World 1976. Damien took reggae and fused it with hip-hop in a way that brought in a whole new generation of fans. His album Welcome to Jamrock became a cultural moment. He's collaborated with everyone from Nas to Skrillex and remains one of the most recognizable names in modern reggae. Julian Marley, another musical talent, often flies a little more under the radar, but he's got the same Marley spirit. Raised mostly in the UK, Julian blends a bit of British influence into his sound, while staying rooted in traditional reggae vibes. Kai Mani Marley is more of a genre blender, dabbling in hip-hop, R&B, and reggae. His music reflects a more urban edge, and he's also had a career in acting, proving once again that the Marley DNA is practically soaked in creativity. Now let's talk about the daughters. Cedella Marley is a force of her own. She was in the Melody Makers with Ziggy and Stephen, but she's also made a huge mark in fashion and philanthropy. She's the CEO of Tough Gong International and has worked closely with the UN on women's issues and youth empowerment. Sharon Marley, who was adopted by Bob after he married her mother Rita, was also a member of the Melody Makers and has worked in youth advocacy and the arts. Like many of her siblings, Sharon uses her platform to uplift others. Then there's Rohan Marley, who didn't go the music route but definitely made headlines. He played college football and later co-founded Marley Coffee, turning the family name into a lifestyle brand. And yes, he's also known for his relationship with Lauryn Hill, which gave us 5 kids and a whole lot of headlines. There are others, like Makeda Marley, who was born just weeks after Bob passed away, and Karen Marley, who has worked in fashion. While not all the Marley children pursued music, many have worked to protect and expand their father's legacy through activism, art, and business. So, yeah, this is a big, talented, sometimes complicated family, and when Fabian Marley came forward claiming to be one of them, you can imagine why people paid attention. But as we now know, not everything that sounds like reggae is part of the Marley rhythm. But what about Fabian? Fabian Marley as a kid. Fabian Marley, born July 27, 1968 in Kingston, Jamaica, spent his first dozen years immersed in the vibrant pulse of the city. Raised by his mother, Raffi Monroe, Fabian's childhood unfolded in a community where music played constantly, from radio speakers to street corner jams. Though life wasn't always easy, it was rich with local color, with neighbors often gathering to swap stories, jokes, and the occasional homemade snack. At age 12, a turning point arrived. He and his mother moved to the eastern section of Kingston. This meant adapting to a new environment, new friends, and new rhythms. Eastern Kingston, like much of the city, was alive with challenges: tight neighborhoods, limited resources, but also tight-knit bonds and a strong sense of community. Fabian had to adjust to unfamiliar streets, different schools, and forming fresh friendships, all while growing into adolescence. Even without knowing a famous last name, Fabian navigated the typical ups and downs of Jamaican youth. His school days involved balancing lessons with energy, laughter, and the occasional scuffle, nothing out of the ordinary for a kid his age. He witnessed the realities of urban life. Some peers fell into trouble, while others chased dreams in sports, jobs, or the kitchen, stirring pots and aromas that floated through open windows on Sunday mornings. Rafi, his mom, was the anchor in his life. She guided him through each phase: school assignments, arguments with classmates, and the push to stay out of trouble. Under her care, Besure, he learned respect, responsibility, and perseverance. These are all values that shaped him well past adolescence. By the time he reached his early teens, Fabian's world stayed rooted in Kingston's rhythms, its laughter, and its struggles. He didn't grow up in a mansion or go to elite schools. Instead, he learned life's lessons on crowded sidewalks, under makeshift streetlights, and in classrooms where teachers did their best with tight budgets. He shared Sunday suppers with neighbors, listened to passing radio DJs, and absorbed the talk of politics, local gossip, and hopes for a better tomorrow. There wasn't anything especially unusual about his childhood. No stage, no fame, no spotlight. He was a boy in Kingston with hopes, fears, challenges, and dreams. And yet, that simple story is powerful. It's a reminder that no matter who you think your family is, your roots, community, and upbringing shape who you become. For Fabian, every laugh, every lesson, and every moment with his mother in those early years helped prepare him for whatever came next. By age 12, when the move eastward happened, Fabian was already the product of his environment. Street games, porridge at dawn, the loud call of school bell, the hum of morning prayers from a nearby church. All those slices of life carved a foundation. He learned to pivot quickly, making new friends fast or navigating a tough math teacher. He learned to smile when things were hard and to lean on community when things got tougher. His teenage years in Eastern Kingston were about grit and adaptability. And though his last name raised eyebrows later in life, at that point, no one paid much attention. He was just Fabian, just a kid, just someone figuring out how to grow up in a city full of beauty and struggle. Music career. Before DNA tests and headlines, Fabian Marley's story started in smoky rehearsal rooms and with rhythms that refused to be ignored. His first brushes with music weren't casual. He dove straight into the deep end, playing with a local group called the Rainbow Band. Think less garage band with dreams and more underground reggae boot camp. It wasn't glamorous, but it was where Fabian began to find his sound. His early days were marked by long hours, intense jam sessions, and more than a few blown speakers. But something magical happened. He started picking up real skills from the OGs of the reggae world. We're talking about serious legends here. Fabian found himself working alongside veterans from the Scatolites, the same group that helped define the genre. These weren't weekend warriors. These were the folks who built reggae with their bare hands and brass horns. Among Fabian's biggest influences were Johnny Moore and Roland Alfonso. They didn't just hand him a playbook, they taught him how to feel the music. And while some kids were learning their ABCs, Fabian was learning scales on the harmonica. Once he nailed that, he didn't stop. He started teaching himself the keys. Piano first. Then came the guitar. One by one, he collected instruments like a man on a mission. No formal training, just long nights, calloused fingers, and the stubborn belief that music was where he belonged. But then life did what life does. It got messy. Fabian was part of an up-and-coming group called Sounds of Rainbow. They were working on new music, putting together an album, and slowly building momentum. Everything was looking up until tragedy slammed the brakes. The group suffered a devastating loss when several members passed away in an unexpected accident. One moment, they were a full band. The next, it was just Fabian, the drummer, and the guitarist. 3 survivors. A lot of silence. That kind of grief can end a band. And honestly, no one would have blamed them if they walked away. But Fabian didn't. Instead, he stepped forward. He went from being a player in the back to standing center stage. With no other vocalist to carry the songs, he took on the role of frontman, not because he wanted the spotlight, but because someone had to keep the music going. So he did. He could have stopped there, but Fabian wanted more than just a comeback. He wanted quality. So he took his tracks into respected Jamaican studios like All Fruits, Caveman, and Afari. Each one brought a different flavor, a different sound. But they all shared one thing in common, a commitment to crafting real reggae. The final polish? That came from the legendary Tuff Gong Studios. Yes, that Tuff Gong, the one founded by Bob Marley himself. It's where many reggae legends have come to fine-tune their sound. Fabian wasn't just recording, he was walking the same halls as his idols. Behind the soundboards were top-tier producers like Rohan Snowcone Fuller and Clive Hunt. These weren't just studio guys. They were producers who knew how to push an artist to his limit, and then a little past that. With their help, Fabian shaped a sound rooted in tradition, but stamped with his own style. And throughout it all, there was one voice that echoed the loudest, Bunny Whalers. The reggae icon took Fabian under his wing, offering advice, encouragement, and occasionally, a good old-fashioned reality check. It was mentorship with no sugarcoating, and Fabian respected that. His goal wasn't to chase fame or copy anyone else's legacy. It was simpler than that. Keep the music alive, keep it honest, keep it moving. The early days of his career weren't easy, but they built him into a musician with grit, soul, and purpose. And if you ask him where it all started, he'll probably point to a busted harmonica, an old piano, and a group of legends who saw something in a young man trying to find his voice. Marley's not his name. In a twist that rocked reggae fans everywhere, a DNA test confirmed that Fabian Marley is not the son of legendary Bob Marley. The results, announced in late 2015, settled years of speculation and family drama, uncovering a truth that left Fabian struggling to come to terms with reality. The testing took place in 2 U.S. states, Ohio and California, and the outcome was clear. Fabian's biological father is Othneil Stanford, not Bob Marley. The match was an overwhelming 9%. Interestingly, Othneil Stanford is already known to be the father of 2 of Fabian's siblings, though Fabian himself reportedly does not know his father's side of the family. To make things even more complex, it appears that Othneil Stanford's own last name isn't actually Stanford, and he never knew his own father. Fabian's longtime manager, Clayton Thomas, shared how deeply the news affected the reggae artist. Since the results were made public, Fabian had not been the same, facing emotional turmoil over the revelation. Thomas, originally from St. Kitts and well-rooted in the music business since the mid-90s, knows the story well. He first heard of Fabian through industry connections in upstate New York, and understood the singer's strong desire to be recognized as Bob Marley's son, a claim that members of the Marley family have consistently denied. Fabian's mother, Rafi Monroe, firmly stated she never told her son that Bob Marley was his father. "I have no idea how he came up with this," she said, "but it is not true. It never happened." Despite the DNA saga, Fabian continues to be legally known as Fabian Marley, and among some circles, he's earned the nickname Fabian the Truth. In spite of the DNA revelations, Fabian has remained active in music, releasing a single titled "Naw Go Say Me Poor." The song delivers a message about true wealth and prosperity that resonates with many of his fans. Fabian has insisted in interviews that there is no ill will between him and the Marley family, and that he embraces his talents as a multi-instrumentalist and singer, committed to sharing a meaningful message through his art. Producer Clive Hunt, who worked with Fabian on that hit single, highlighted that his collaboration was strictly based on Fabian's talent, not any family connection. "I never knew him before working together," Hunt said. "It was purely merit-based." Fabian himself has openly expressed his struggle to process the news that Bob Marley is not his biological father. However, he also stands firm on his identity. "I will never apologize for being a Marley," he said, "because I grew up believing I was." He shared that his mother once told him Bob Marley was his true dad and encouraged him to pursue music. Even after the DNA results, Fabian remains determined to keep using the Marley name since it was legally changed years ago. Importantly, he states he wants nothing from the Marley family, just to honor the legacy through his own work. Fabian's manager, Clayton Thomas, has suggested that perhaps the reggae singer should consider reverting to his birth name, Othneil Stanford, to respect the Marley family's rights and legacy. He shouldn't continue under the Marley name, Thomas said, because it would be infringing on the Marley name. He needs to get respect on his own terms. This controversy didn't come out of nowhere. For years, Fabian and the Marley family had been locked in a dispute over his paternity. The Marley clan consistently maintained that Fabian was not related to Bob Marley. In fact, in 2014, the Marley family's attorney, Kevin Powell, granted Fabian access to take DNA tests with Bob Marley's surviving children to put the matter to rest. After multiple rounds of testing, results unequivocally showed Fabian is not a half-sibling to Rohan, Stephen, or Robert Marley. The tests were conducted by Independent Forensics, a respected DNA lab in Illinois. Their conclusion was definitive. Fabian is the biological son of Othneil Stanford. The Marley family publicly expressed relief that the issue was finally settled. A spokesperson said, "We hope Fabian can accept the truth of his own heritage." They also reiterated that the man known as Fabian Marley had no biological link to the Marley bloodline, and that the Marley name and legacy are protected by 56 Hope Road Music Ltd., the company founded by Bob Marley's widow and children to safeguard the family's intellectual property. Meanwhile, some of Fabian's own family members have voiced concerns about his insistence on identifying as a Marley. His eldest sister, Sandra Walker, described his claims as not normal behavior and said their community recognizes he is not related to Bob Marley. The fallout. When DNA results shattered long-held beliefs, Fabian Marley faced not only a personal reckoning, but a legal battle that would change the course of his career. Now performing as Fabian the Truth, the artist stands at the crossroads of identity, legacy, and the fight to keep a name that many say he has no right to claim. Fabian Marley, born Othneil Stanford in 1968, officially changed his name by deed poll in 2012 to embrace the Marley surname. For years, he built his music career under the shadow and light of being known as Bob Marley's son, a claim that the Marley family has always disputed. The saga took a dramatic turn after a DNA test conclusively proved that Fabian is not biologically related to reggae's most iconic figure. The results showed a 9% match with a man who is the father of Fabian's other siblings, but not Bob Marley. Despite the scientific findings and repeated requests from the Marley family, Fabian has publicly rejected the DNA results, labeling them illegal and refusing to abandon the Marley name in his performances. His former manager, Clayton Thomas, revealed that Fabian's inability to accept the outcome put strain on their professional relationship, ultimately leading to a parting of ways. Thomas expressed concern that Fabian's insistence on clinging to the Marley legacy was hindering his own career growth. Adding fuel to the fire, the Bob Marley Foundation and 56 Hope Road Music Ltd. filed a lawsuit seeking to prevent Fabian from using the Marley name or associating his musical acts with Bob Marley's image. Court documents requested an injunction forcing Fabian to stop using the Marley surname and to change his legal name. The companies argued that Fabian's use of the Marley name misleads the public into believing he has an official connection to the Marley legacy, a claim that could damage the family's intellectual property. In response, Fabian announced his stage name change to Fabian the Truth, a symbolic step to separate his public persona from the Marley brand, while still maintaining his legal name as Fabian Marley. The name change seems to be a compromise, though Fabian remains adamant that he will continue to fight to keep his birth name and heritage intact. Interestingly, the controversy has given Fabian a surge in popularity. His music video for "Naw Go Say We Poor" has attracted thousands of views on YouTube, showing that even amidst disputes, his message resonates with many fans. The song reflects on the nature of true wealth and abundance, a theme that echoes throughout Fabian's journey. Fabian has spoken openly about the DNA testing process, which took place at the University of the West Indies Mona campus. Despite the DNA results being submitted to Marley family representatives, he claims to have received no formal response. "They act like they didn't get my first evidence," he said in an interview, "but I know I am a true Marley. The world will see what's fake and what's true." The Marley family's attorneys countered Fabian's claims by questioning how he could have obtained Bob Marley's DNA to conduct such tests, suggesting the allegations lacked a factual basis. The family's position has been firm. Fabian Marley is not Bob Marley's son and has no claim to the Marley name or legacy. Fabian's personal story is deeply rooted in the iconic Trenchtown neighborhood of Kingston, Jamaica, the same humble community where Bob Marley rose to international fame during the 1970s. Fabian says he was born there on July 27, 1968, and attributes his existence to a relationship between his mother, Raffi Monroe, and Bob Marley. He insists that all his official documents, including his birth certificate, bear the Marley surname. As Fabian gears up to release his debut album, Nature's Valentine, next month, the legal disputes and family controversies have done little to dampen his ambitions. Some tracks were mastered at the famed Tuff Gong Studios, a Marley family-owned facility, illustrating the complex ties Fabian maintains with the Marley legacy. Executive producer George Ogilvy confirmed that Fabian has several international shows scheduled across Africa and India, signaling a promising push to establish his career on a global scale. Despite the tensions, Fabian stresses that he is not seeking financial handouts or favors from the Marley family. Instead, he says his mission is to carry forward the spirit of Bob Marley's message. "I want them to unite and love people, just like my father," he shared. His legacy is his musical heritage, and that belongs to all of us. Fabian the Truth remains a figure caught between legal battles, family disputes, and his own unwavering belief in his identity. Whether he will find peace with the Marley family or continue to forge his own path, only time will tell. But one thing is certain: the name Fabian Marley will not easily fade from the reggae story. Was this a conspiracy? Just when you thought the story of Fabian Marley's paternity was over, the plot thickened, and this time, reggae insiders got pulled into the spotlight. The controversy over whether Fabian is truly the son of reggae legend Bob Marley has spiraled into a public feud, with fingers pointing at industry figures Maxine Stowe and Bunny Wailer, accused by Marley's own son of stirring the pot. The drama reignited after Rohan Marley, Bob Marley's son, posted a fiery message on Facebook on January 13th. Accompanying the post was a video clip showing Fabian Marley passionately disputing the DNA results that supposedly disproved his biological connection to Bob Marley. The caption didn't mince words. Fabian lashes out due to the results about his real father, Othneil Stanford. "The truth is an offense, but not a sin. Jah go with him. Selah." The post stirred a flurry of comments, including one that accused Maxine Stowe, Bunny Wailer's manager and respected reggae industry veteran, of encouraging Fabian to push for the paternity test to prove his Marley lineage. Stowe quickly fired back, baffled and annoyed, denying any involvement. "Are you people off your rockers? Where in these stories has Bunny Wailer or myself been mentioned? Maybe it's the Marleys who sent him out as a publicity stunt, like Snoop Dogg claiming to be Bob Marley." Her sharp reply didn't go unanswered, with Rohan Marley accusing Stowe of holding a grudge against the Marley family. "We sent him out there as a publicity stunt. Wow. Why will they not speak the truth?" he fired back. When the Gleaner reached out for Stowe's side of the story, she stood her ground, insisting that neither she nor Bunny Wailer pushed Fabian Marley to take any action. "When Fabian first came to us, he already had a team of people helping him seek the truth," she explained. "He had lawyers, paperwork, and was frustrated that his attempts were going nowhere because the Marley family refused to provide matching DNA samples. We did not put him up to anything. He knew exactly what he wanted, to prove his paternity." Stowe expressed her puzzlement over why the saga hasn't settled, despite the DNA evidence being revealed. "Once you prove whether you are or are not the father, that should be the end of it," she said. The Reggae Insider feels she got dragged into the mess because of her ties to Bunny Wailer, but insists she harbors no personal ill will toward the Marley family. Her main gripe is with the Marley family's reluctance to cooperate earlier. If you're certain Fabian isn't Bob Marley's son, why drag this out for over 3 years? Why not provide the DNA and end it from the start? The Marley family created this prolonged situation more than Fabian did because they delayed giving the DNA match, she stated plainly. Though she denies orchestrating the saga, Stowe showed empathy for Fabian's emotional state. People don't grasp the toll this can take on someone, especially a child. Fabian might be living in denial. Imagine how hard it must be to process that your whole life belief has been upended, she said. She hopes that instead of judging him, the public understands the emotional turmoil the singer faces. Fabian isn't crazy. With the chaotic family situations in Jamaica, he could be anyone's child. He's invested years in this identity. The revelation must be deeply painful. Meanwhile, the Marley family issued a statement reiterating their stance. For years, they said, Fabian refused to take a DNA test through accredited labs. A spokesperson welcomed the conclusion, saying, The Marley family is pleased to finally have this matter behind us. We have said repeatedly that this man, who calls himself Fabian, is not Bob Marley's son. The tests now prove we were right. We hope he can accept the truth of his true heritage. Fabian's DNA saga was propelled by a series of tests coordinated by his then-manager Clayton Thomas. These tests confirmed with near absolute certainty that Fabian was not Bob Marley's biological child, but was instead the son of Othneil Stanford, who was also the father of Fabian's siblings. Despite the DNA findings, Fabian has steadfastly denied the results, calling them illegal and continuing to use the Marley surname in his music career, even changing his stage name to Fabian the Truth. His former manager parted ways with him over this refusal to accept the facts, citing it as detrimental to Fabian's career. Fabian, however, insists he isn't after money or fame from the Marley family, but wants to carry on Bob Marley's legacy of unity and love. "I want them to unite and love people, just like my father," he said, emphasizing the enduring power of the musical heritage. The saga highlights how a single paternity question can cascade into family feuds, legal battles, and public spectacle, shaking the very roots of a musical dynasty. Whether Fabian the Truth will ever fully reconcile with the Marley family or continue forging his own path remains an unfolding story watched closely by reggae fans and insiders alike. When DNA speaks, the truth can't hide. Fabian Marley's test results shook the reggae world, proving he's not a biological Marley. What started as a quest for identity turned into a family feud, legal battles, and a public clash over legacy and names. Despite the fallout, the story reminds us how complex family ties and truth can be, especially under the spotlight. Whether you see it as a tragedy or a lesson in honesty, one thing's clear: sometimes the hardest truths lead to the most powerful stories. Stay tuned as this saga continues to unfold.